Didn't pop up. There we are. Over to you, Christine and Runar.
Should we just start?
Yes, please.
Well, hi and happy Tuesday to everybody. A good day for everyone with a solar plant in Bergen these days, either on roofs or facades. My name is Anna Jordal, and my background, I am a master from Norges Handelshøyskole back in last century. And since then, I've been working in different parts of the energy sector, and now I am part of Volte, and this is an energy tech company. It's owned by Eviny, and from now on also by the Hafslund Energy Group in Oslo. So this gives us both strength and capital to speed up our efforts, reaching out to businesses wanting to use energy as smart as possible in order to save both money, kilowatts, and kilowatt hours. And now I'm struggling to find how to move here. There. So this is some of the people working here. There are 17 of us, I think, almost now. We are a power supplier in the business markets, and collecting and analyzing data is our strength. And that is the basis for illustrations and curves where saving opportunities can be identified through our platform. We have an energy platform. You can look into it at volte.no. Today we are diving into solar. And the big question is how to optimize an investment in solar plants on the roof or in facades. So the first thing to understand is actually how does solar work? And solar is not necessarily a friend to be very trusted. Solar radiation is the resource for solar panels to produce electricity. And for a roof-mounted solar plant, a profile of the production through the year in kilowatt hours per hour would look something like this. And as you see, more than 75% of the production is during the 5 months from April to September. So the shape of this curve is probably looking like the back of a hedgehog. And what you also can see here is that for rainy days and grey days, the volume produced is maybe down to like 25% of its maximum if we have a blue and sunny day in Bergen. The traditional way of checking out how a solar plant would work could be something like this. When discussing solar, accumulated volumes in a year is often what is illustrated. This means that if you have production from a solar plant of 398,000 kilowatt hours and the consumption is like 1,315,000 kilowatt hours, you may be misleaded to think that you are self-supplied like 30%. This is not necessarily correct. Looking at this illustration, you would maybe think that it is obvious that the company will consume all the production. The orange bars illustrate solar and the yellow is consumption. Runar will illustrate why this is not necessarily the case. For example, if this building consumes a lot during nights and is closed at weekends, this mismatch can lead to a solar plant being decided for and that is bigger than what you can instantly consume in this building. A battery would, of course, be a solution. Calculating for that will be another session when Runar has finished his master thesis. To understand why this might be a mismatch if economy is important is to understand this, these illustrations here. To the left, you see a screenshot from monitoring solar over a day. This is a sunny day in August on Nesttun, just outside Bergen. It's from 123 kilowatts peak installed solar roof-mounted plant with an installation of 10 degrees tilt, east-west. You see a maximum production at 1 o'clock during daytime, of course, and it's at 65 kilowatt peak, which is quite normal for such a plant in August. On the right side, you see purple bars showing an hourly usage of electricity in a building hosting an industrial company. To make an optimal investment and also explanations on the consequences of having an own solar production, these hourly insights is really important. So there are a few more essentials that is needed to understand in the model that Runar will shortly show you. But these points here are of vital importance and is also why our model is unique as far as we know. We can find exact usage by importing hourly consumption data from Statnet's L-Hub. This is the hub where all power suppliers import all data from metric points, OMS, for the exact billing each month. The model then matches these numbers with the expected amount of kilowatt hours from a solar plant. And these estimates, as Runar will show you, is done per hour based on weather data. The volume or the value of kilowatt hours is set by adding expected future spot prices with the grid costs, taxes, and other costs in order to estimate a total value, which will correspond to the alternative cost of buying a kilowatt hour from the market. So with this way of thinking, we, when economy and finance count the most and finding the shortest possible repayment period, we have to go from checking out how much space, how much area you have on the roof, and instead look at the energy need and the consumption and use the latter as the instrumental to understand what kind of a solar plant should be chosen. Just to give it a brief illustration. As you can see from this illustration, the benefit of using the kilowatt hours yourself is worth a lot more than selling it to the grid and achieving a spot price. The alternative cost reflects the same value as not having to buy the needed kilowatt hours from a power supplier. So as shown here, if the price of an hour, the spot price is 0.65, but the total cost, including taxes and grid costs, the alternative cost is 1.35. So here you see that the value of own consumption is the double of selling everything back to the grid, to your power supplier. So to sum up, the essential of the model that Runar is going to show you is matching. It's like Tinder for solar plants and buildings. The essential of the model is displaying hourly usage per year and finding the best match with estimated solar production on a specific site. And the goal is to optimize the investment to get the shortest possible repayment period. That means that Runar and Volt is needed. So I pass the word on to Runar.
Okay, thank you. Yes, I'm Runar. I'm a master student at the Integrated Master Program in Energy, and I'm also working 40% with analyzing data in Volte. So I will start by sharing my screen. And Amna, can you give me a heads up if you're seeing it? Okay, good. So then I will try to explain what you are seeing. So as Anna said, we are looking to best illustrate how a solar panel will affect the economy of your building, so the electricity cost. So what you're seeing on the left here is our inputs, and the first input is the meters for the given building. So this is the smart meters. So as Anna said, all of the electricity consumption for the meters in Norway are stored in LHub. So we have data for most of the metering points back to 2019. That means that we can have a good understanding of how the consumption looks like in that building. So on the graph here on the right side, we can see the consumption for all of these meters. And with what hopefully will be the new regulation, the top metering point here will be the metering point which is actually connected to the solar panels, and the rest of them you can virtually share the production. So if you're producing more than you are consuming on one metering point, that doesn't really matter because you can share it to the others. Okay, so that is the consumption. And then on the bottom here, I have a map. And what this do is that when I click on this map, so now I have clicked on the BEL building in Oslo, and this asks the PVGIS API for the historical production data. Not exactly production data, but what would have been the production in that area. So we also inputted specification for the solar panels. It's the tilt and also the azimuth, so if it's pointed in north or south, for instance. And also we have inputted here the installed capacity. Okay, so we also have an input here for selected spot price area, and that is of course important because the price varies a lot based on where you are. So for instance, solar panel production in the north is not only bad because it lacks solar radiation, or it might be worse, but the spot price is also a lot lower than there is in the southern parts of Norway, so the investment case will be completely different. So it's important to have this correct. This is solar year, which I'm using for illustration, and also the spot price year, which is showing in some metrics on the right. So what you're seeing here, this is what would have been the production if you had the given solar panels at that facility or at this longitude and latitude in 2012. And what you see in the middle here is that we have taken that radiation and put that on top of the consumption based on the regulations. So now we have what the consumption would look like at that given facility with this production. And then on the right side here, we have calculated the spot price costs and also what you would have paid in energy tariff. I think that's the correct term, to your net operator. And also the peak demand charge. So this is the charge you are paying because of your monthly peaks. We have those costs, and we can see how this solar plant is affecting the different costs, and also we have a potential savings. And if the solar year 2012 and the spot price year of 2026 is if you believe that is true also for the coming years, you will have a payback time for 8.3 years. So we don't know we are not sure how the spot price will look like in the future, of course. So what we have done here is that we have created some scenarios based on the spot price. So we have from Eveny Fornybar, they have spot prices or electricity prices. It's not exactly forecasts, but it's like a assumption of how we think the spot price will develop up until 2026, and that is based on the future market, so Nasdaq. So then we have like a daily profile and a weekly profile and then a yearly profile. So we know that the electricity is more expensive during the winter and during the day than what it is in the summer and during the night. And those profiles are then multiplied with some constant according to the future price. So it can give a good or a quite good like assumption of how the spot price will be up until 2026. And what's happening after 2026 is more uncertain. So therefore we have created 3 different scenarios, where the top scenarios you are experiencing spot prices which is higher than we expect them to be. And then we have some expected value which is based on the average or weighted average, also on the future market and historical prices. And then we also have a low scenario where we'll go back to spot prices we saw before the pandemic. And then we can illustrate these scenarios with this cumulative cash flow. And you can see here at year 0, we are doing an investment, and then you're gradually saving the electricity costs because you're reducing the cost, and then you will eventually have it paid back. And then in discussion with the customer we're doing the analysis for, we have to understand which of these parameters are uncertain. So for the cost per kilowatt peak, Anna has have good experience in this field, so she knows approximately what this value should be. But we also discussed this with Fusen and Solcellespecialisten. We could do that when we are looking at the given building, and then we get like an understanding of what is a realistic price and how much will it vary. So typically maybe 7 to 10,000 or 8 to 10,000, depending on the roof. And then also we have some parameters here for the grants from the commune and also from the government. Some of them are certain, especially in Bergen and Oslo, you're most likely to get this grant of 2,500 krona per kilowatt peak. But the government grant is more certain. We don't really know how that will end up to be. So in discussion with the customer, we figure out what are the uncertain parameters here, and then we run different scenarios. And when we run these scenarios, we can illustrate to the customer what is the expected payback and what are the uncertainties and what do we have to take into consideration. And that of course helps, because then you get a much better understanding of the risk you're taking with making such an investment. So then I just wanted to illustrate what's happening if you have maybe too large solar panel, taking into consideration your consumption. So what you're seeing here is that during summer you are producing a lot more than you're consuming. That means that you are selling a lot more back to the grid, but you're also selling more, or you're producing more than 100 kilowatts than you are consuming. So you are only allowed to sell 100 kilowatts. So that means that you are wasting energy. So this is the types of thing where we are able to illustrate with this tool and then show how it affects the economy of your investment. So I think that was how we do this, and I think I maybe remembered to say everything. Is there anything you would like to add, Anna?
No, I think that was perfectly fine, and we end up with the levelized cost of energy as well in this analysis, so that you can compare it with other energy prices if you are interested in that as well. And you sum up what is the expectancy of an investment during the lifetime of 30 years. So as we have understood the clients we've been talking to, this is a fantastic way of understanding what solar can do in the energy mix of a specific building or an area with the same Gaussian bruksnummer, and to optimize the payback time.
Thank you very much for